Brian woke up early every morning in his small apartment in Chicago. Even though the sun shined through his window, he felt a heavy feeling inside. Brian worked at a big grocery store in the city. Every day, he checked prices, swept the floor, and helped customers find bread or milk, but he always felt nervous talking to people. Sometimes, he wanted to share his ideas about how to make the store better, but he worried they would laugh at him. So, most days, Brian stayed quiet and did what he was told. At home, Brian liked to draw cartoons and listen to music. He dreamed about showing his drawings to friends or maybe even at a local art show one day. Still, whenever he thought about trying something new, he remembered the times he made mistakes before. That small voice inside said, "You can't do it. Nobody cares." Because of this, Brian did not try new things. His friends did not visit often, and he felt lonely most nights. Brian saw other people at the store laugh together and share jokes. He wished to join them, but he was scared. The fear stopped him from taking the first step. Every day felt like the last, quiet, safe, but empty. Brian wondered if things could ever change, if he could stop saying no to himself and begin to say yes. Even though hope seemed far away, there was a small light inside him, hoping for more. One cold Monday morning, Brian walked into the store as usual. He wore his old blue jacket and looked down while he walked through the employees' break room. On the table, someone left a flyer with bright, bold letters, "Change your mindset, free community talk this Saturday. Believe in yourself." The paper was full of smiles and happy people. At first, Brian wanted to ignore it, but something about the words made him stop. He thought, maybe this is not for me, but then he picked up the flyer and read it again. It said, "Everyone can grow. It is never too late to try." The words followed Brian the whole day. When his boss asked for help moving boxes, Brian almost said no, but then the message from the flyer came into his mind. He pushed himself to try, and even though it was hard, he was able to help. Later, he worried he did not do it well enough, but nobody judged him. In fact, his boss said, "Thanks, Brian. Good work." This made Brian smile for the first time that day. After work, Brian sat at his kitchen table and read the flyer once more. Thoughts raced through his mind. He asked himself, "Can I really change? Am I brave enough to try?" Even though he was scared, something new started to grow in his heart. A small voice said, "Maybe you can. Maybe you can learn to say yes instead of no." Brian wanted to find hope, but he remembered all the times he tried before and failed. He remembered the day he signed up for an art class and never went. He remembered another time he tried to talk to his coworkers about music, but he could not find the right words, and everyone just kept talking without him. That night, while eating his plain cheese sandwich, Brian watched videos online. He liked funny animal clips and quiet music, but then a recommended video caught his eye. The title was, "How to Stop Being Afraid and Start Living." The speaker, a woman with a calm voice, told her own story. She talked about being scared and alone. She said, "I was shy and quiet, just like you. Then I learned to take small steps every day. I learned that I did not have to be perfect. I just needed to say yes to one tiny thing." Brian listened closely. Her story was not special or magical, but it was real. It was about feeling lost and still finding new hope. Brian lay in bed that night and replayed her words over and over in his mind. He felt two feelings at once, fear and hope. He did not think he could speak up or share his art right away. He wondered if people would ignore him if he tried. But the story from the video and the bright flyer on his table both sparkled in his mind. Maybe he could try, just for one day, to think a little differently. As he closed his eyes, Brian was not sure if he would go to the talk on Saturday, but for the first time, he felt that change was possible. The fear was still there, but now there was also a new feeling. Maybe, with small steps, things could be different. On Saturday morning, Brian looked at the flyer again. His heart beat fast, but he put on a clean shirt and left his apartment. The sky was bright and clear, but Brian felt nervous. He held the flyer tightly as he walked to the community center. When he arrived, people stood in small groups and talked. Brian wanted to turn around and go home, but he remembered the video. He thought, just one step. Just say yes once. A woman at the door greeted him. Hi there. My name is Sandra. Welcome. Are you here for the talk? Brian nodded and whispered, yes. It was a small word, but it felt big to him. Sandra smiled kindly and gave him a seat near the back. As the talk started, the speaker shared stories about believing in yourself. The room was full of energy. The speaker said, everyone here can take a small step. It does not have to be perfect. You just have to try. Brian listened carefully. When the speaker asked everyone to stand up and share one goal, Brian's hands shook. For a moment, he felt too scared. But he saw other people stand up: an old man who wanted to run a marathon, a young girl who dreamed of writing stories. Their voices were nervous too, but everyone clapped and smiled after each goal. Brian realized he was not alone in being afraid. With effort, he stood up. His voice was quiet, but he said, I want to share my drawings one day. When he sat down, people clapped for him just like they did for everyone else. This small moment felt huge to Brian. He almost could not believe he did it. After the talk, Sandra came over. She asked about his art and encouraged him. We have a small art club on Thursdays, she said. If you want, you can come join us. We just meet and share what we love. Brian felt his fear return. He wanted to say no, but remembered the day's lesson. He nodded and said, maybe I can try. He walked home that day with a smile, small but real. During work, Brian's heart felt lighter. He started saying hello to people more often. Some days it was only a soft hello, but some days he joked about the weather with a customer, or helped a coworker find bandages for a paper cut. One afternoon, his manager asked if anyone wanted to decorate the staff room board. Before he could think too much, Brian said, I can try. His hand shook while he drew bright pictures and wrote, have a great day, on the board. When his coworkers saw it, they said, that looks great, Brian. Thank you. This gave Brian another little win. Weak moments still came. On Wednesdays he worried about Thursday's art club. They will not like my drawings, he thought. But then he remembered his small wins. He remembered standing up and saying his goal aloud. Each day, it felt a little easier. The steps were small, but Brian could see he was changing. He was not just dreaming now, he was trying, even if it scared him. And with each action, his confidence grew a little more. A few weeks passed, and Brian felt proud each time he took another small step. The art club was now a place where he showed his drawings every Thursday. He still felt nervous, but the gentle smiles from new friends helped. At work, his co-workers sometimes stopped to talk about his artwork on the board. For the first time, Brian felt a little more like he belonged. Then one day, something big happened. The community center decided to hold a talent day. Anyone could join and show a special skill or tell a personal story. People from the art club and the store encouraged Brian to sign up. "You're a great artist, Brian," said Sandra. "You should show your art. Maybe you can even talk about your story, how you found confidence." Brian's heart thumped hard when he heard this. He wanted to say no and hide. Suddenly, the fear that always waited in the back of his mind became loud again. He remembered all his mistakes and awkward moments. What if everyone stared? What if he forgot what to say? The thought of standing in front of a room full of strangers made his stomach feel tight and his hands sweaty. For days, Brian could not think about anything else. At work, when he tried to draw something on the staff board, his hand shook. He avoided eye contact with people and stopped smiling as much. At home, he stared at his sketches and imagined them on a big wall during talent day. He listened to the voice inside that said, "What if you fail? What if nobody likes your art? What if you forget the words?" But then he remembered the first talk he attended, and the video from the calm woman who said, "Take small steps. You do not need to be perfect." Brian sat on his bed late at night, a drawing pad in his lap. He whispered to himself, "I am afraid. But maybe it's okay to be afraid." He thought about how much had changed in small ways. He remembered how scared he was at the art club the first day, but now he could share his drawings with others. He remembered when just saying hello felt huge, and now he sometimes made people laugh. Brian felt like the talent show was a mountain. It was higher and scarier than any step before, but something inside told him it was his time to try. 2 days before talent day, Brian kept finding excuses not to sign up. He washed dishes, counted his pencils, walked around the block, anything to delay. But his phone buzzed with a message from Sandra, "You can do it, Brian. We all want to see your art." Those kind words warmed his heart but also made him more nervous. He worried he would let people down. That night, he stood in front of the mirror, holding one of his cartoons. Looking at his reflection, he forced himself to say, "You can do this. It is scary, but it is your dream." He repeated it over and over, trying to believe it. On the morning of Talent Day sign-up, Brian stood outside the community center, hands cold and shaking. He took a deep breath, feeling like the wind might carry him away. He walked inside, saw the long list of names already signed up, and hesitated. A strong wave of fear rushed through him, maybe bigger than ever before. But then he saw Sandra waving and smiling from inside. His heart beat fast, but instead of turning around, he picked up the pen and wrote his name. The fear did not vanish, but in that moment, hope felt just a little stronger. The day of Talent Day arrived, and Brian barely slept the night before. He woke up early, looking at the ceiling, breathing with shaky hands pressed against his chest. Every sound in the morning felt louder, every minute felt longer. When Brian dressed, his fingers trembled while he buttoned his shirt. He checked his drawings over and over, worried each paper had a mistake. The voice inside him tried to whisper doubts. You are not ready. It is too hard. But Brian forced himself to remember his small steps and little victories. Walking to the community center, Brian's feet felt heavy, but each step became a promise to try. Inside, the hall was already full of voices, laughter, and colorful lights. People held guitars, crafts, or baked treats. Brian saw Sandra and a few friends from the art club waving to him with big, friendly smiles. That made his heart beat faster, not from fear but from feeling that he belonged somewhere. Backstage, the moments passed slowly. Brian listened as cheerful music and stories filled the air. When his name was called, all the worries rushed back. He held his drawings tightly to his chest. But before stepping on stage, he looked at himself in the small mirror in the corner. He spoke softly, "You can do this. Just breathe. No one wants you to be perfect, just real." Suddenly, he remembered the woman's words from the video and the laughter from art club meetings. He remembered the first time he said a shy hello at work and how each try made him braver. As Brian walked out to the stage, his legs shook, but he kept moving. The lights felt bright, and the room seemed larger than ever before. For one quick moment, Brian thought he might give up and run off stage. Instead, he looked at the people. He saw Sandra's warm smile. He saw the old man from the store nod gently. Behind all the fear, Brian felt something surprising. He wanted to share his drawings and his journey, not because he had no fear, but because he did. He put his art on the stand, letting everyone see the bright cartoons full of color and hope. Taking a deep breath, he began to speak. His voice was quiet at first, trembling like a leaf in the wind. "Hi, my name is Brian. Some of you know me from work, and some from art club. A few months ago, I was too scared to talk to anyone or share what I made." His hands shook as he spoke, but every time he looked into the cheering faces, his voice grew stronger. "I thought maybe dreams were for other people, not me. I thought mistakes meant you had to stop. But then I tried to believe in small steps. I tried to say yes more. Each small try gave me more hope." Brian showed his favorite picture, a funny cartoon dog smiling under the sun. Laughter and applause filled the hall, and he felt relief swirl with pride inside his chest. He talked about the fear of failure. He said, "Sometimes, the loudest voice is the one that tells you to quit. But now, I am learning that it is okay to be scared. Fear shows that something is important. Each time you try, even if your voice shakes, you win." The audience nodded. Sandra and others clapped, giving Brian a wave of warm energy. In that moment, Brian's nervousness turned into courage. Standing there, he realized something new. The people in the room were not looking for perfect. They wanted real stories and honest art. For the first time, Brian felt proud not only for sharing, but for showing his true self. As he finished his talk and the crowd clapped again, Brian's doubts seemed small compared to the joy growing in his heart. He thanked everyone softly, stepping down from the stage a different man than when he walked up. For Brian, fear had not disappeared. But standing in all that light, he could see how courage could grow, even from the smallest step. After Brian's speech and art show, he could not believe what he had just done. As he walked off the stage, people came to talk to him. Some thanked him for sharing his story. A few asked about his cartoons and told him their favorite drawings. Others admitted they also felt scared sometimes. Hearing this, Brian's heart grew lighter. He smiled, and for the first time, he did not want to run away from all the attention. Instead, he felt connected. Later, Brian stood in the corner of the hall, holding his stack of drawings. Sandra walked up and hugged him, saying, "You made us proud today." He looked around at the room and realized nobody was laughing at him. Nobody was calling him weak. Instead, people respected his bravery and honesty. The fear that once seemed impossible to beat was now shrinking, replaced with a deep sense of pride. He still felt the leftover shakes in his hands, but happiness warmed them. When he helped clean up at the end of Talent Day, a new feeling grew inside him. Brian noticed he was not only more comfortable but also more open with others. He laughed at simple jokes, asked questions about other people's acts, and even shared a story about his first art class. Even small talk felt easier. He realized that people liked real, simple conversations just as much as perfect answers. Sometime during the cleanup, one of his co-workers from the grocery store said, "Brian, next time you should try teaching a cartoon class." The old Brian would have said no right away, but now Brian thought, why not? Maybe I can. At home that evening, Brian looked at his reflection in the mirror. His feelings were mixed: relief, happiness, and a little bit of leftover worry. But now, when fear whispered, he answered it more bravely. The memory of applause and kind faces gave him strength. The worries faded faster than before. He understood that being scared did not mean he was weak, it just meant he was stepping into something important. This thought made him feel strong inside. After that big day, new opportunities started to appear. One afternoon at work, Brian's supervisor asked him to help train a new employee. Brian's first thought was, what if I mess up? But his second thought, even louder this time, was, I can do this. I spoke to a whole room of people. This is just one person. He gave the new worker gentle advice and even showed them a cartoon face he liked to draw for the staff board. The new employee smiled back. Each new chance seemed less frightening than the last. Brian also became more committed to the art club. He volunteered to help start a display of everyone's work in the community center hallway. He planned his own cartoon class for kids in the neighborhood in the next month. Some nights, doubt still tried to creep in, but Brian now had memories of his success, proof he could face hard things and keep going. Even when problems appeared or when a drawing did not work out as he hoped, Brian felt different. He forgave his mistakes quicker and looked for a lesson instead of a reason to quit. When people told him they enjoyed his story, he believed them. He did not feel like a fake anymore. Brian knew he still had more to learn, but the hardest part was done now. He had shown himself that courage can start small and grow bigger every day. As days went by, Brian woke up feeling lighter. Each morning in Chicago felt brighter, even on gray days. He walked in with a real smile, ready for both easy and hard things. He took each challenge as a way to get stronger. Brian did not believe he had to be perfect anymore, he just wanted to keep growing. Inside, he now carried proof that change was possible. And it was a simple yes that had started it all. After Talent Day, Brian walked through the city streets with a new sense of purpose. He noticed sunlight bouncing off tall buildings and smiled more at strangers. At the grocery store, he felt more relaxed and open with his co-workers. Even when difficult customers appeared or a shelf needed heavy lifting, Brian faced the problems one step at a time. He told himself, "I have done scarier things than this." If he made a small mistake, he laughed instead of feeling bad. His co-workers saw the change, too. Some started asking for his advice or stopped by just to talk about their own worries and hopes. Brian felt like he was part of a real team, not just standing in the background. On Thursdays at Art Club, Brian was not the quiet person in the corner anymore. He now shared his ideas about new themes for art shows and welcomed the new members. If someone felt nervous, Brian remembered his own first day. He told them, "Everyone feels scared at first, but you get stronger. Just try." The more he talked about his difficult times, the more he noticed people really listened, and nobody judged him. Sometimes Brian still worried before he shared a drawing, but now the worry felt smaller. Every kind comment and clapping hand reminded him of how possible growth really is. Outside of work and art club, Brian ran into new challenges. The landlord sent a letter saying rent would go up next month, and for a moment, Brian's old fear rose up inside him. But this time, he did not let the fear take over. Instead, he sat down and wrote a simple plan. He listed places where he could save money, maybe buy less takeout or draw cartoons for local coffee shops to earn a little more. The problem felt big, but instead of giving up, Brian focused on small actions he could control. The feeling of hope grew with each little step. Some nights, loneliness tried to return. On those evenings, Brian remembered what he learned at the community center. He would call a friend from art club or reread a kind message from Sandra. One Saturday, he invited 2 co-workers to his apartment for pizza and funny movies. Before, that would have felt much too scary. Now, even as he felt a bit shy, he took a chance and opened his door. The laughter and stories that filled his tiny living room made him feel braver with each new memory. When Brian got sick for a few days and missed an art club meeting, he felt anxious again. He worried that people might forget him or that his drawings would fall behind. But when he returned, everyone greeted him warmly. The group asked to see his newest pictures. Brian realized that people cared, even if he was gone sometimes. He learned his value was about much more than being perfect or always present. What mattered most was trying, connecting, and coming back, even after a hard day. With each fresh challenge, Brian grew stronger and kinder to himself. He used to believe that brave people did not get scared, but now he knew courage was doing something even when he was scared. Each day began to feel more open, like a white paper waiting for his drawings. Brian trusted himself and was proud not only of his success, but of every step from fear to hope. Brian's life began to change in new ways. At the grocery store, he noticed that one of his co-workers, Jake, seemed very quiet and shy. Jake often avoided eye contact and kept to himself at lunch breaks, much like Brian used to do. Brian remembered how hard it was to speak up or ask for help, so one afternoon, he sat beside Jake in the break room. He started with a simple, "How's your day?" At first, Jake only nodded, but Brian kept talking gently about funny stories from art club and memories of his first nervous days at the store. Little by little, Jake opened up. Brian shared what had helped him, taking small steps, trying even when afraid, and giving himself a chance. He told Jake, "It's okay to be scared. The first yes is the hardest, but after that, you'll find friends waiting." In the art club, Brian began helping newcomers who feared showing their work. He understood that first shaky feeling and smiled at them with encouragement. Sometimes, he would tell his own story, describing how just a year ago, he too worried about sharing, and now he looked forward to every meeting. A quiet girl named Maria once whispered, "What if nobody likes my work?" Brian replied, "You don't need everyone to like it. Make one person smile, even if that person is just you. That is already a win." Watching others grow stronger made Brian realize how meaningful his journey had become. Each time he helped someone else, his own confidence grew, and the club started to feel like a family. Inspired by this, Brian decided to share his drawings and advice with even more people. He created a simple blog called Small Steps, Big Dreams, and posted easy stories about facing fear, as well as bright cartoons that made people laugh. Later, he took a brave step and started a YouTube channel. His first few videos were awkward, and his voice sounded shaky, but that did not stop him any longer. Brian remembered how the woman in the video once inspired him, and now he wanted to do the same. Every week, he posted new art and short talks about hope, mistakes, and trying again. Slowly, people commented with their own stories, saying, "Thank you, Brian, for helping me try one more time." These messages made Brian feel proud, but also humble. He understood now that simple stories and a kind heart could change someone's day. Looking back, Brian sometimes sat by the window with old drawings scattered on his table. He saw pictures full of sadness from last year, and new ones bursting with colors and sunshine. The difference was not just his art, it was in him. He felt the change in his smile, his strong walk, and his hopeful voice. He reflected on all the moments he almost gave up and felt grateful he kept going. Brian realized his journey was not just about speaking up or sharing art. It was about making friends, learning how to try again after failing, and showing the way for others. By helping people at work, encouraging friends at art club, and sharing online, Brian understood one simple truth: the courage to change your own life becomes more powerful when you help someone else change theirs. And with every kind word, new drawing, or helpful video, Brian's story continued to grow, lighting up new paths for people to follow. Brian woke up each morning in his small Chicago apartment feeling completely different than before. When the sun peeked through his window, he did not feel afraid of the day anymore. Now, every day felt like a new page he could draw on, full of colors, hopes, and dreams. Even if some moments still brought nerves, Brian knew from experience that he could handle whatever happened. A spark of pride warmed him as he made breakfast, thinking about how far he had come. At the grocery store, Brian walked in with his head higher. Co-workers often smiled when they saw him. If someone needed help, Brian was ready, working as a team, giving advice, or just making someone laugh with an easy joke. Brian no longer felt invisible or nervous about making mistakes. Whenever a problem appeared, he took a breath and faced it one step at a time. He remembered to be patient with himself, knowing now that mistakes were only signs that he was trying. Each new day at work gave him another chance to use his voice, and he felt proud to be a part of the team. Brian's art became more active, too. Thursday art club meetings were full of energy, and he never missed a chance to say hello to someone new. He even ran his first cartoon class for beginners at the community center, smiling when shy kids showed their sketches. Watching others learn, Brian realized his own journey could help many people. The color and joy in his cartoons seemed to shine brighter now that he could share the lessons he had earned. His drawings no longer hid in a drawer at home, they gained a real place in the world and helped others feel less alone. Sometimes Brian sat quietly after a busy day, looking out over the city lights. He thought about the person he had been, quiet, afraid, always doubting himself. He felt thankful for the small steps that helped him grow. Each choice, each moment of courage, became a building block. Brian understood that he was the one who had opened new doors and brought change into his life. He was no longer just hoping for something better, he was living it. Brian smiled when he got messages on his blog or videos from people who found hope in his story. Now, even when new challenges or unknowns appeared, he did not panic. Instead, he trusted in his own ability to learn and get back up if he fell. He was ready to accept whatever came his way: work problems, life changes, or the few nights when loneliness tried to visit him again. The fear was never completely gone, but courage had grown so much bigger. Standing by the window one evening, Brian realized that life did not need to be perfect for him to be happy. The hard times he faced only showed how strong he had become. He knew he would always face new problems. Yet, he had learned to trust small wins, to look for hope, and above all, to believe in himself. With this mindset, Brian felt prepared for every tomorrow. He understood that real growth was not a finish line, but a bright road ahead, full of learning and new dreams. Every step from now on was his to shape, one small yes at a time.